computer, then I will upload it to Dropbox and share that link with you to download. Okay, so I'll let you take it away.
Okay. All right, Suzanne. So the first question that I have today is what are some of the biggest challenges mid-career professionals face when re-entering or advancing in today's job market?
So, biggest challenges mid-career professionals face in the job market. So, I think the job market is challenging on many levels. In some ways, technology has made things easier. You can easily go to different job boards, look at opportunities, but it's made it so easy for people to apply that then there's hundreds and hundreds of applicants for one position. So I think there's that question of how do you stand out, and that's going to be true at every level of your career for people who are just entering the job market. But I think also if you're mid-career, there's other people looking to make that kind of move. So I think there's just that how do you navigate this challenging job market that's flooded with applicants is one piece of the puzzle. And so we recommend things like strong professional brand. That's why we have our students at the Mark School work on their LinkedIn profiles, make sure they're strong, connect with their classmates, connect with their faculty, alumni. And then all the pieces of your application have to be top notch and really very much customized for each employer. I think there's not a one size fits all resume you can be sending out. There's not a generic cover letter. Those things are not going to get you the job. And then there's a big networking component, especially even more than ever. Certain industries are going to lend, or certain jobs or certain application processes will lend themselves for networking a little more easily. But everyone needs to be doing that, reaching out to their network, finding out, what's it like on the inside, what's the hiring process like. There's just a lot of value for trying to get a foot in the door. Those are some things that.
What skills or competencies are most in demand for professionals looking to stay competitive in their careers?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of a broad question, and it will really depend on industry. Um, for our students, they're heavily in higher education, nonprofits, government. But broadly speaking, people still want good communication skills, um, being able to write, being able to articulate verbally, present in meetings. And so those are some communication skills. I think also there's technology is so much a part of the workforce in every office that you work at. Assuming we're talking about office environments mostly. And you really need to know the technology of the industry that you're looking to get into, because I've seen people who are maybe have been out of the workforce for a while or have been in the same industry and they're trying to make a change. If they're kind of not up on the latest technology or the moving past technology, just sort of the language that people speak in a certain industry, like the way they talk about things, the the culture, all those pieces. It's kind of knowing what industry you're interested in looking for, and what's the technology, what are those specific ways of talking about the work that makes sense for that area. Um, and then I think you might be getting to a question on AI, but the world of work is changing, the job search is changing, and I think everyone's trying to scramble to keep up. So to be kind of at the forefront of that and not even that there's lots of trainings you could take or events to go to or workshops people are leading. So just kind of making sure you're staying fresh in your area of interest, I think is also important.
How can job seekers use AI tools effectively in their job search without relying too heavily on them too heavily?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think it's something people are grappling with as far as AI and job search. We use it a lot in our office. And I think it's ever changing how to use it and how not to use it. The main tool that we use is ChatGPT. I know that there are other tools like Claude and Gemini. That's just the ChatGPT is the one that in my office that we tend to use. And there's all different ways to use it. You can certainly do things like if you're trying to figure out your skill set and where it's a match in a certain area for like particular job titles, it's putting in details from your background, your resume, and asking like what are job titles that fit my background. Sometimes I think people are like, I don't know what to do. I have all these skills, but I'm not sure where they fit in the workplace. So you're kind of feeding AI some information that you know about yourself and your skills, and then it's good at generating ideas like that, concrete ideas to then kind of follow up with. It's good at a quick analysis. So if you put in a job description, you can analyze things like the top 10 keywords that are in that job description much quicker than you or I could do on our own. And you can ask for a side-by-side comparison of, okay, what keyword, what's this in this job description versus what's in my resume and what keywords am I missing? So in all those cases, you're not actually asking it to write anything for you or even edit at this stage. I do think there is one area I think of writing is LinkedIn. You can do an analysis of your LinkedIn profile, again, with that sort of comparison of job search, LinkedIn profile, and see where there might be gaps or things you could edit. Sometimes people struggle with the about section of their LinkedIn profile. And I think ChatGPT could help with drafting something or you draft something. That's one area I don't mind so much if ChatGPT wrote a first draft that you edit and tweak. But I think where people get into trouble now is the cover letters. They're all starting to sound the same. And it's becoming pretty obvious when people are using ChatGPT to write the cover letter. So I would stay away from that. I know it's really tempting. You could write some drafts, just make sure to make it your own and then ask for, you could tell ChatGPT to not change anything, but to give you recommendations for how on point your letter is, how much it closely matches the job description. So you can do things like that, but to actually ask it to do the writing is where I think people are getting into trouble. Those are some of the things that come to mind as far as AI, but we find it very useful. I would never tell anyone not to use it because I do think it is helping people speed up certain processes. The other thing that I'll mention that's incredibly useful is for interviewing. So if I'm doing a mock interview now, rather than having to spend time on trying to figure out questions to ask that are tailored for a job, I will put in the job description and then ask ChatGPT, give me possible job questions that might come up in an interview. And it's very comprehensive. It'll give you, break them down by categories. It'll give you questions you could ask them. That is incredibly useful and powerful tool.
How should job seekers approach ageism or other forms of bias they may encounter in hiring?
Yes, ageism, it's a tough question. I certainly worked with plenty of our students or graduates who have a lot of fears around that. It's the kind of thing that it's hard to pinpoint. It's that if it's happening or not, right? Because you don't have the information on, oh, it may be unconscious, unconscious bias on the part of the employer that they're not even aware of. So I think that what's happening behind the scenes, you may never get information like, is it ageism why I'm not being chosen? But I think you have to take control of what you can control. So things like making sure that what I said earlier about technology is important, because I think it's sometimes that there's a perception that only that younger people understand technology and older people start to phase out and don't understand new technology. So I think if you make it your mission to have true examples on your resume and maybe a portfolio, though I'm not sure that's necessary, but showing in your bullets that you've undertaken certain projects that show that you are tech savvy. And if you truly are not tech savvy at this moment, maybe there's areas where you can upskill and just make sure you get that experience. Because some of the technologies, maybe it's intimidating at first, but it's just a matter of getting experience. So that's one area. I think certainly some common things mentioned are you would take off very old jobs. Now that's kind of relative what that looks like, but that is something you can do, is take off positions. I'm hesitant to give a number, but 15 plus, 20 years plus. It really depends on the kind of experience that it is and the level of the job you're going for. Taking up that experience, sometimes people take off the year of their graduation for their bachelor's degree in particular. That one, I think it depends, but just those things that you're highlighting the most recent experiences that are the most relevant. Some of it, I think, is a mental game. We work with people and have meetings with people who I think talk themselves out of things, and so there's an element of not talking yourself out, not having a running loop in your head that around this and really kind of going for it. I know that maybe is not a concrete action item, but I think sometimes it gets in the way because I see people not having confidence in themselves in the job market, and fears come up, which I think is natural and normal, but to the extent that can be managed and to really feel like to understand your value, I think is such a big important part of this question, and to say there's value in maturity, there's value in experience. And when I've interviewed people who've been out of the workforce, it's seeing like, oh, I in some cases I'd rather hire someone who has kind of life experience, work experience, over someone who does not. So I think it's not underestimating what you bring to the table and being able to articulate that, to be able to strongly position yourself in a certain way. And some of that may take practice. It's a skill set. Interviewing is a skill set. Talking about yourself is a skill set. Marketing yourself is a skill set. So all these things need to be worked on, especially if you haven't done it for a while.
You may have already answered this question, but let me just ask this. What role does career services play in helping adult learners or working professionals transition or upskill successfully?
Sure. Well, for our current students, which are graduate students, we meet with students one-to-one, talk through any aspect of the job search that they're at. And we offer different trainings, whether because we're delivering them ourselves or they're part of the college portfolio, and we're making sure that students are aware of those trainings. We do a lot of networking help and support. We have such an extensive network, and I think anybody could benefit from their alma mater where they graduated from undergraduate and from a master's program, and really using that network. I think that is heavily underutilized. And LinkedIn is the big tool for that because it can easily help you see if your employer of choice or the employer you see an opening at, they're going to be on LinkedIn, and then you can very easily go to the people section of that company, and then you can sort that by college. It's a pretty powerful tool. And then in our case, you'd look at Baruch College and say, oh, hey, Suzanne is connected to this person who works here. I was emailing with someone today who was interviewing for a job and wants to talk to somebody who's done something similar. And so we were kind of looking at who she could talk to. And then I reached out to one of the people, et cetera, and then she's going to have a conversation with them. So that kind of thing, I think, especially is helpful for adult learners to really get familiar with the tools that are on the people side. Because I think in general, that goes back to sort of what they have to bring. They have years of experience. They might have things in common with other kind of senior, more experienced professionals, and can meet them at like a peer level. And then, so that's something that Career Services is very good at helping with, and helping coach people on how to have those conversations, because I think they can be very intimidating or anxiety producing if you're not used to having them. But there are many things that we do, and in general, it's our job to support people through these kinds of job searches, and that's just something we do and are very happy to help. So I think there is that being open to accepting support. I think it's another piece of the puzzle.
What suggestions can you provide to help mid-career employees avoid missteps in achieving their goal?
Avoiding missteps. I think some things that I mentioned earlier around not being thoughtful. I think people start to just apply for a lot of things and, put out lots of applications and feel good in the moment because they've done a bit of, the quantity over quality. And so I think if you find yourself doing that, to kind of slow it down and say, maybe I need to take more time with each application and do the networking piece. Like, these things are hard. They're time consuming. And we may not always be seeing a payoff. And then I think if you feel like you have been working at it on your own and not getting anywhere, but that's often when people come to us. They feel like they're spinning their wheels. They haven't, they're not getting any interviews, nothing's happening. And I think a check-in with somebody, that's our office, and, assembling your support team. Our office is part of it, but that's certainly not, we're not the only ones to support you. I think having a network of people who are there, and often peer mentoring is really helpful. I know in my life, when I've been job seeking, I benefited from a friend who was job seeking, maybe either in the same area or a different area, but just somebody to help work together and support wins and bounce ideas off of. And there's so many small parts of the process where you have to be, celebrating the small wins until you get to the bigger win, or the setbacks, having someone to help you kind of with the setbacks where you're interviewing and you don't get the job and you have to kind of pick yourself back up. So I think not getting discouraged, and the way I've seen to do that is to get some support. Make sure like you're on the right track, even if it feels like things aren't coming together quite yet.
How has AI changed the hiring process from the perspective of both job seekers and employers?
Yeah, I think all of this is very much in flux when it comes to AI. And I think both the employers and job seekers are kind of scrambling to figure out, is what I've seen. And because it's made it so easy for people to apply, then on the employer side, they're not sure how to evaluate candidates when everyone is using AI to polish their applications. And then, it's a question of like, is that a bad thing to do that? Or is it, this is the new normal? So I think we're very much in a period of change, and I've tried to attend as many trainings as I can on this. And that's been my takeaway, is like nobody has a definitive answer on anything anymore, but just that it's complex and become even more complicated with the introduction of AI. And in some ways, the most recent workshop that I went to, which kind of resonated for me, was a little bit of back to basics, that if we can stand out more by not using AI and really showcasing our writing and communication skills, in-person networking, or just networking is that much more important, because the referral, if there's so many candidates in a pool, because of AI and other tools, then how are you going to stand out? And some of it goes back to basics, which is like a personal referral will be hugely helpful in a world where there's so many candidates. So those are some things that come to mind. But I think there's, like I said earlier, there is helpful tools on the job seeker side. I'm not on the employer side. There could be tools that I think that employers are using, and technology that's changing the way that candidates are evaluated. That's not necessarily a good thing for the candidate perspective, which is where I'm always kind of thinking about. But yeah, just understanding that there's a lot of change happening and the future is not quite certain. And I think also, like, how will it change jobs? Like, will we see more and more jobs requiring some sort of knowledge base around AI? I think we definitely will. I haven't seen that specifically yet in our fields, but I think that some of that's coming because it's just everywhere.
Looking back, based on your current role, would you have taken another career path to achieve this role?
To be a career services professional, and I attend a lot of career panels and host a lot of events where I hear people talk about their career paths, and it's really not so unique to have a winding path. Like, people think it's unique, but it's actually like more common to have a winding path than a straight path. So I, like others, have had a winding path. And I think the more straight path I could have taken would have been like a master's degree in higher education administration at a earlier time in my career. But I didn't know that that was even a field. And I don't know that that would have been right for me. So I think for me, I always followed, at different stages of my career, I was always evaluating my skills and interests and the intersection of those two things, and thinking about, like, where can I plug in not just all of my skills, but the ones I enjoy using. So I think everyone has skills things they might be good at, but they may not want to really be using them all the time. Like, in another life, I could have been a fundraiser at a nonprofit, and I did a little bit of that, and I think I could be successful at that, but it doesn't interest me as much because it's not as much along the lines of the work that I do. So for me, I just, yeah, I found myself working in nonprofits, working around women's leadership, women and girls organizations. I kind of followed that trail, had to write my own course multiple times, persevere in difficult situations, or be underemployed at times. But I think I tried to keep the faith at times when I was having a hard time with the job search. And I was always good at relationship building and reaching out to people and having coffee meetings with people. Because I think when I was confused about what I wanted to do next, I knew that that would help me, was talking to people to understand different pathways. That's kind of what I fall back on, which is what I recommend to others as well. So, just a way to say that most career paths are winding, and mine was certainly that way. And now this is the longest role I've ever had, over 10 years. And a lot of that is just working hard to, again, understand like what I care about and what skills I want to be using on a daily, weekly basis in service of a mission. That's what I found works for me.
If you could offer one key takeaway for professionals navigating these transitions, what would it be?
It's so hard to narrow down to just one. But I think going back to what I said, if I had to pick one, I'm always someone who focuses on relationships and strengthening relationships, professional, personal, like kind of understanding that we're all here to support each other. And you, it's not if someone helps you, then you owe them something. I don't think most people think of it that way. I think it's we're paying it forward at different stages of our career. And that if you find yourself in a stage where you need that support, you're going to be more on the receiving end. And that's what can actually feel more uncomfortable for people. But whatever context you're in, you're currently a student, you're working, or you're in the job market, I think it's surrounding yourself with positive people and not being afraid to reach out. So that's kind of one idea I'll offer, which is not a new idea, but I think it's for some people it's easier for them than others. So I think it's not being afraid to acknowledge like, oh, this is hard for me. Like, I know I should be networking more. And start easy, start with the low hanging fruit and kind of work your way up and build up your confidence to kind of put yourself out there. A lot of the good career opportunities or good career experiences are outside of our comfort zone. And so if you find yourself outside of your comfort zone, that's probably a good thing.
Well, Suzanne, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to interview you today. It was wonderful.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you.